We back brown like we at the Murph. But when we upgraded the work, we upgraded the turf. Yeah, slam ball.
All right, well, just judging by all the scenes from downtown San Diego, opening day 2025, I'm just going to take a guess, an educated guess, that I am not the only person who woke up on Friday with a hangover and a pocket full of crumpled up receipts and some Uber charges that I had to try to piece together when I woke up on Friday morning. I guess I'm not alone on that. Welcome in. It is Section 1904. D. Smith, John, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm good. My day was not my day and my evening was not nearly as fun as yours. We can get into how my opening day got kind of spoiled in both good and bad ways in a minute, but I'm glad to hear that you had a good time. My main question for you, and this is going to become important later, did you stick around for the entire game? Were you there for the final out?
I was not in the building for the final out. So I did make my way to Bub's at the ballpark by the end of the game. So got in, was there for first pitch. I was there for the moment of silence for Ricky Henderson, which I thought was really well done.
Sure.
I did appreciate that as a huge Ricky Henderson fan. Made my way into the seats. Sat there. It was like a 30-minute first inning, I want to say. It took quite a bit. Baseball's back, baby. And then I somehow wandered in and gravy trained my way into the Lexus Club.
Look at you.
Yeah, look at me. I got to say thanks to Todd Brown, the owner of Bub's, actually. He's the one that had all the access and the tickets and was just an incredible host for us. So thank you to Todd and Tony Bubbles. But yeah, we made our way into the Lexus Club for a little while, where I was there for the seventh inning when the Padres scored and took the lead 7-4, right?
Yeah.
And then we made our way into Bub's, I want to say, by the end of the game. Things were moving kind of slowly.
Yeah.
Downtown, 45,000 people. So, it took a little while to get anywhere, to get to the restroom, to get to the concession stand, to get into the park, to get into the Lexus Club, to get out of the park, to get out of the gates. Everything just kind of moved slowly on opening day, as you would expect.
Glad I wasn't there. For that reason only. I hate when things move slowly and are crowded and all of that. And that actually, I probably would have done the same thing if the plan was to eventually end up at Bub's. I'd be like, let's go early, because otherwise we're just going to walk into a crowd and it's going to be, all right. I have the box score pulled up and I'll tell you why in a second, but I noticed something that's very funny to me. Do you know who got the win in the game yesterday for the Padres?
Well, I know who didn't get it. I'm just guessing I don't know which reliever would have been in the game in the 6th or 7th inning. I don't have the box score in front of me.
All right, no, this is great. I will reveal in a second. First thing I noticed, the Atlanta Braves in total giving up 7 runs through 139 pitches. The San Diego Padres giving up 4 runs through 195 pitches.
Wow.
They threw 60 more pitches than the Braves, scored more runs, and won the game. The winning pitcher threw 1 pitch. 1 pitch! And Wandy Peralta walks away with a W. That's how much more efficient can you get? 1 pitch thrown for a strike, got the out, got out of the inning, got the W. I hope Wandy Peralta enjoyed that nice cold beer at the end of the day that he earned. This was my day, and this is why
that's not quite. Can I just jump in on that? That's not quite vulturing, right? You know the term vulturing.
It's definitely not vulturing.
It's not vulturing, but it feels like it's somewhere in the same neighborhood as vulturing, right? Vulturing is when you come into a game and you give up a tying run or you give up an inherited run, and then the team scores and you end up vulturing the win.
Yes,
that's not what Peralta did, but I feel like it's a relative of vulturing. When you get to come into a game, throw 1 pitch and call it a night, like you said, have a cerveza afterwards, and you pick up a win, that's good living in the big leagues.
That's good living in the big leagues. So my day, which I think I outlined to you, was supposed to be, I was going to leave Mason Ale Works, which just let's pause here for a second. There was a lot of construction going on in Barrio Logan that we were unaware about. It was a little difficult to get to Mason Ale Works.
Yeah. Still is, John. Still is. Had to go retrieve a vehicle this morning.
I didn't know.
Still construction there.
I didn't know if that was the car you retrieved or not. But it made it difficult to get there. So thank you to the people who actually did show up pregame and chatted with us and hung out with us and had some tacos and had some beverages. That was a really good time. My plan was to do that, leave there, get home in time for first pitch, which almost happened. I got home and, it was still like 1 or 2 outs in the top of the first. Watch the game until I had to get my daughter from school, come back, watch the rest of the game, and then do the, take her to the optometrist and do the open house for her school and all that stuff. I get home from Mason Aleworks, and I walk in, and my wife, Rebecca, who's sitting right next to me right now, says, "I'm sick." And I was like, "Oh, no." And she had a massage booked for the middle of the afternoon that she could then no longer attend. And she tried to cancel it. And they're like, "Nope, 24-hour notice. You can't cancel it. We're going to charge you either way." So she said, "Can I send my husband instead? At least we get something for this money." And they're like, "Yeah, no problem." So I get home. She's like, "I'm sick. You have to go to my massage at 3:30. And I'm like, "Okay." And she's like, "I'll pick up the kid. I will take her to the optometrist because that's timing wise." She's like, "But you have to go get this massage." So I watched as much as I could, listened on the radio on the way to the massage. And the last thing I heard on the radio call, Padres losing 4-3. The last thing I heard was Wandy Peralta come in, throw a pitch, and get an out. I went into the massage thinking, I don't know, man, against the bullpen. Like we talked about this, like maybe they'll freak themselves out. I don't know. I'm not very hopeful they're going to score a bunch of runs here. I walked out, boom, Padres win 7-4. As I see that on my phone, I'm like, what the hell happened here? And so I proceeded to, find video of the Sheets home run and try and catch up on everything that happened after that. But it's interesting to have those experiences sometimes because it's when expectations meet reality and sometimes they're in different places. Like if you told me before I walked into that massage that I was going to walk out to Padres beating the Braves 7-4, I would have been like, I don't see that as a likely thing here. But shout out to the Padres. Shout out to Mike Schilt. They played a good game. I thought he managed an interesting but good game. This is the main thing that's sticking in my head. And I texted you this, although you were several drinks in and several drinks left, so I don't know if you remember this. The most interesting thing for me from this game was the fact that Michael King had so much movement on his pitches that he couldn't throw them for strikes unless he took something off them, in which case they started getting tagged. And it felt like Blake Snelly. Like one of those Blake Snell starts where he's 80 pitches in and the
I like that. That's a good adjective now. It's Snelly, a Snellian.
And I was watching it going like, this is like a bad, like sometimes Blake Snell's pitches are just dropping in the strike zone. There's nothing that opposing hitters can do, and that's how you win a Cy Young award. But there was a lot of Snell starts where his pitches were so nasty that he had no idea where they were going to end up, and I felt like that was King yesterday, which is a really good sign. And B, something he's got to figure out before the next start. That was my top tier takeaway from the with the 6 innings that I managed to watch before I disappeared.
Yeah, you would have had a better view of that than I would have because I was sitting down the first base side. So, I didn't have the best view of the strike zone. You can kind of see it north-south. You can't see it east-west.
Yeah.
So, we could tell, and obviously there was a wild pitch in that first inning. I think the term that you're obligated to use in broadcasting is laboring. He seemed like he was out there laboring a bit through 76 pitches. So, yeah, you could tell it was moving, and I've seen enough of him to know like he can spin it. That dude, ridiculously talented.
Did his changeup always move like a 2-seamer? I've never seen a changeup move like a 2-seamer, but every time he threw it, it would just go like sideways. And I was like, I don't remember changeups doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't recall that. Top of my head about the changeup. I must admit, I didn't prepare for that portion of the conversation.
No, that's fine.
But yeah, I just remember watching him and seeing how much movement there is on like everything moves. Nothing straight.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing straight from him at all. So yeah, I mean, it just looked like he was working hard, 4 walks, allowed a homer. Just, it seemed like everything was a little difficult for him out there. But
yeah, and the person who is equipped to for this part of the conversation is Mudcat, and Mud was the one who was kind of I don't know that he was pointing out the fact that he couldn't throw strikes because there was so much movement, but every time King would get into like a jam, like a 2-0, 3-0 count, it was pretty obvious that he took something off to try and get it in the strike zone. And Mudd was mentioning that. He was like, you could see he took something off to get that into the strike zone. And one of those pitches was tagged and sent over the wall. I also saw the Tatis, home run that he missed by 3 inches that I don't think he came around to score. No, that was the one where he got stranded on third base. And you could see that actually kind of bothered him. Like when he stole third base, it almost looked like he was apologizing to the third base coach of like, I screwed that up. I should have been on second before this or whatever. That was an interesting kind of teaching moment. From
on
what
his
I
way
saw.
to 40-40. In the bandwagon Biatch days, you doubted that he can go 40-40. Look at him now, off and running with 2 stolen bases. Leading Major League Baseball, by the way.
He looked great. One of the hat tips I want to give to Mike Schilt is, at first I looked at the lineup that came out and I was like, that lineup doesn't make any sense. And then I was like, well, if you put it in the category, like, who do you want to get the most at bats? It's Tatis. And who do you want up with Tatis on base? You want Arise. So that works. Machado loves the 3 spot. Sure. Bogarts, you could flip-flop Bogarts and Merrill for me if you want 4-5, but I'm not picky about it. And this is the other thing. Without Acuna, the Braves lineup, much like the Padres lineup, just kind of dies after like the 5-6 spot. And so that I feel like that was pretty helpful. That the Braves were not the overwhelming team with like 8 great hitters and whatever. And as soon as they got Sale out of there and that freaking slider from hell, it seemed like they handled themselves a lot better. My only other thing from this is the obvious, and I think I even maybe wrote about this on section1904.com at one point, but they're gonna have to get 5 innings from Cease today, at least, because they cooked the bullpen. I mean, they went, the bullpen went what, seven innings, something like that, and pretty much everyone that you would want throwing in like a win through.
And a lot of pitches too. Jacob 31 pitches, Matsui 23 pitches, Estrada 25 pitches. So to your point, Peralta gets out of there with 1 pitch. Adam 15, Suarez 25.
24 for Suarez. I don't, again, it's early in the season. These guys aren't wound all the way up. I don't know if I would throw Jacob, Suarez, Estrada again today, kind of no matter what. So they're going to need a good outing from Cease today.
Yeah. I mean, I had a couple thoughts, again, and it's real easy here with one game to start thinking, this is it, right? Like, this is the way this is going to go.
Season's over.
I would just say, it just continues to impress when you see that at bat from Jackson Merrill. The first at bat that he has against Chris Sale.
Yeah.
And he's down, he's in a hole. I think he's 0-2. Maybe he worked in a ball or whatever. But just to shorten up, and I just had a great view of it when he's got Tatis standing on third and Manny Machado standing on second base. And he just one-hands it, just kind of throws the, I know these are all cliches, so forgive me.
No, but
he just kind of throws the bat at the ball, and it just goes for a couple of runs, and you're just like, wow, that's against Chris Sale. I thought it was kind of disappointing early on. You try not to let it get to you that Bogarts missed an RBI opportunity. I was like, well, Bogarts has got to get somebody home here with less than 2 outs. He doesn't do it, and then Merrill gets up there, and you're just like, God, I don't know what more we're going to be saying about this guy if he continues to perform at this level. That's just not a normal thing for a second-year player starting a season. It's just not a normal thing that we're watching with him.
I saw a post on, actually, I think it was Darren. Darren posted a thing on Blue Sky, and it was just 2 screenshots from his TV screen. And the first one was Sale releasing that pitch, that slider. And when he released it, his left arm looked like it was 2 feet left of Jackson Merrill, right? And then the picture was Jackson Merrill making contact with a ball that looked like it was a foot outside the strike zone in the other direction. And it's just like, how, if the ball is released here and it ends up here, how the hell do you calculate that and hit that, much less with one hand? And yeah, he's an amazing baseball player. He's an amazing baseball player already.
Yeah, I mean, he really is. And I think, John, too, I don't think it's going to surprise anybody if we hear that some of the extension talk with him, which seemingly picked up a little bit during spring training. I don't think it's going to surprise anybody, if this this gets worked out here shortly for Merrill, because, again, and I understand, like, finances and money and all that sort of stuff, and where the Padres are with the CBT, all that sort of stuff needs to be factored in. But, there's a reason probably why you're hearing it a little bit. Usually there's a little bit of, when there's smoke, there's a little bit of fire to it. So not going to surprise me if they end up doing something long-term with Jackson Merrill. And he's obviously made the point that he's open to this.
Yeah.
So, I know the season's begun. A lot of players just want to compartmentalize and say, well, let me put the stuff off till the end of the year. I don't want to be thinking about it. I don't want to be thinking about my, he doesn't really strike me as that kind of person. But, man, like, wow. I mean, it's just like what he does, the presence that he has too. And I don't think you can really overstate how popular a player he has become. Not just in terms of going to an all-star game, should have been the rookie of the year, batting in the middle of the lineup. I don't think we can like underestimate how popular he is. You see that jersey in a lot of places. I thought Manny and Tatis had the market cornered on jersey sales. There's a lot of number 3 jerseys, and people are showing up at these games with eye black on, and like, I mean, it's just, it's opening day, so there's a lot of people there, and they're happy to celebrate all of the players, obviously. But man, it's anecdotal. It just feels like there's a little extra in the tank for people when it comes to Jackson Merrill.
Yeah, and I'll give you my theory on that, and you can shut me down if you want. But I think that in San Diego there are obviously there's a number of people that are Latina, and there's a number of people who, like us, are Caucasian. And I think some of those Caucasian people want to support someone who looks like them. And maybe they're a little less comfortable telling their white child to, play like they're Fernando Tatis Jr. for whatever reason. Not everyone can look beyond color and skin color and all of that. So look, at the end of the day, this is one of the things I always brought up with Derek Norris. Like there was a large group of white people that wanted to root for the white guy with the beard because they all know a white guy with a beard, right? And we all know someone who looks like Jackson Merrill. And I don't know if I know anyone else who looks like Fernando Tatis Jr. And that plays a little bit. But also, as we've discussed, like, he's the preeminent baseball guy, baseball junkie. Like there's nothing else in Jackson Merrill's life that he seems to care about more than baseball. And he's not even a jerk about it. He's not even like sticking his nose up at it. He's just like, I love baseball. I want to be around the game. I want to be with my guys. I want to be playing baseball. I want to be the best baseball player ever. I mean, he's Mike Trout. When Mike Trout was his age. Now, no, I'm not saying he's going to be Mike Trout, but this is one of the things that everyone loved about Mike Trout. He was a guy who was just like baseball, baseball, baseball. I love baseball. I want to play baseball. I want to be around baseball. That's intoxicating. Let
me jump in on that too, because, I do think that, I understand the point you're making about, people tend to gravitate towards
the mirror.
But I also think there's just a little bit of baggage also with Tatis. You know what I mean?
And Machado.
Like, Tatis has been hurt and he's been suspended, and he's still immensely popular. I mean, it's not like there's no Tatis jerseys. Not my point. What I'm saying is, like, in a short amount of time, on a team where you do have, and Manny can be a little surly, right? We all understand Manny can be a bit surly,
and he's
at
got
times.
a reputation too.
Yeah, so I would understand. Some of the I'm just in such a short amount of time to see people from every walk of life, honestly, the way that they are embracing Jackson Merrill, and like on a team of names, when you have Tatis and Machado and, Arise is here, and like Xander Bogaerts is not performing like a big name player, but he is, he did come here with a good career.
Yeah.
Good resume. And like this guy is just meteoric. Like his popularity just, I don't know. I mean, what they are sitting on with this guy is it's something else, man. It is something else, and these are big presences. Manny Machado is a huge presence in that clubhouse. Fernando Tatis Jr. is a, I don't know that he's like a leader kind of guy, like not a captain kind of player. Just go out there, have fun, play with joy, all that sort of stuff.
But they're not going to ignore him.
No, absolutely not. But like thinking about what this is going to look like over the next couple of years, like how it's always going to be hard when you have a Manny Machado figure in that clubhouse, and he's here for 10 more years.
Yeah.
But it's like it's always going to be Manny's team. But like you just can sort of see, the emergence, not just of the player, but also of the personality of Jackson Merrill. And like, it's just going to be an interesting dynamic over the next couple of years. Like, is it going to be Merrill's team? Is it Machado? Like, I'm not sure how that's all going to work. But, we've gone from he was bringing in the young guy energy, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what he said last year. I'm here to bring the young guy energy after a season where it was a sullen clubhouse with some bad personality mixes. And he brought the young guy energy. And like, he's still 21. He's got years where we're going to consider him the young guy energy. But, like he's evolving into something that is more than just this, this great success story coming from the minor leagues and 40 games or whatever in AA to a Rookie of the Year All-Star caliber season. It's emerging into something else, John. And I think like you can witness it. Like you're just witnessing it, not just when he's playing, just everything about him and his aura, it's like, whoa, like they are sitting on something pretty special here.
I mean, when I said I'm not predicting he's going to be Mike Trout, I'm also not saying he can't be Mike Trout. Like there's a possibility here. He's currently
better personality though.
Yeah, for sure. Better personality. Also, on pace right now for 648 RBIs this year, which if he does that, it's just something I'm keeping an eye on, Darren. Whether or not he ends up above or below that.
You're that guy.
Weird other thing I'm keeping an eye on is how often Luis Arraez bunts. Because, am I wrong? Luis Arraez is a free agent after this year, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Bunting is kind of throwing away an at-bat, right? That's a team player thing. When Tatis gets on and Arraez immediately starts bunting, the first thing that goes in my head is, oh, he's got an extension locked up. Which maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But like that's and maybe that's just who Arraez is.
I thought he was bunting for a hit. I'm at the game, so I don't know if they, discussed this or I just saw it one time and I sort of said to myself, oh, did he see the third baseman back?
He did it twice. He did it in his first at bat, and I think it went foul, and then he swung after that, and then he actually bunted when Tatis hit the not home run and ended up on first. Arraez bunted him over to second. I didn't see whether or not he was trying for the hit or not, but he bunted him over to second. A thing to point out, because I think you mentioned it in our last podcast, as far as a Jackson Merrill extension, if that's actually happening, if there's timing around that, there is a Jackson Merrill bobblehead night coming up in like 3 days. Huh. I don't remember a bobblehead night being this early in the season before, but yeah, if they wanted to jump on that, that's if they were to announce something like that right before a bobblehead night, I'm sure it would get everyone fired up and sell out every seat. Not that they really need help with that on the the first Monday of the season, but who knows? Maybe they do.
Yeah. So where are all the haters here? Where are all the Gavin Sheets haters? Where are all the catching situations a nightmare? I mean, listen, there's going to be plenty of time for those people to have their voice, I'm sure. But even just going through the game itself, like I said, I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about Xander Bogaerts, who looked kind of slow. I mean, God, there was a ball head up the middle. He's like no range.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't want to sit around after a 7-4 win to open the season and sort of dwell on the handful of things that you're like, I don't know about that. Because it was really just it really was. It was a great day. For as much as you could say, like it takes a minute to get to the restroom or to get to the concession stand, and being around downtown San Diego, everybody was having a blast. I mean, people were, as I said, I'm sure I'm not the only person who had to go fetch a vehicle today and wake up with a pocket full of receipts. And also, I want to give a shout out to, I saw a lot of people downtown yesterday. I went and stopped by the Ben and Wood show. They had invited me to stop by. It was their 7th anniversary show on opening day. So congrats to those guys. And John, I walked in and there were a lot of people who have listened to radio over the years who, even as we have just sort of launched the Section 1904 brand, who are like, I love what it is that you guys are doing. So I've signed up. Somebody said, hey, I'm going to throw, $5 here or whatever. Can you explain the different tiers? And it was really we sat here and did this when we launched on Wednesday, and we were literally watching the email coming in. It hasn't stopped. Yeah. I am hearing from people in different walks of life, like professional life, who are asking, hey, what's going on with that? Hey, what's the deal? And then to see a bunch of hopeful listeners and subscribers, people that want to be part of the section, to see them yesterday while they were there celebrating Ben and Woods and getting set for opening day. I thought was really great too. So thank you to everybody who's already been a part of this. And thank you to everybody who had some nice things to say yesterday, whether it was downtown with those guys or whether it was in the ballpark or whether it was at Mason Ale Works. Greatly appreciated. And we definitely do feel I do. I won't speak for John. I definitely feel the responsibility to make this a really, really good product each and every time we turn the microphone on.
Yeah, and peek behind the curtain here. Not a thing that everyone would be talking about, but I'll do it because I think it makes everyone look good. Which is when we did the episode a couple weeks ago, and I said, I had this idea of launching a modern media company, and I took some shots at radio and my past in radio and whatever. I considered Stephen Woods to be a very close friend, and Woods was a little annoyed at me because that's his profession, and he felt like I was weakening the foundation that maybe that he's standing on top of. And I was very honest with him. I said, hey man, we're trying to build what you guys have. And what I mean by that is that show is so good. They've built such a community that I think even if they weren't on the radio, if they were doing this, if this was a podcast, if it was a Ben and Woods podcast, even from day one, I think they'd be just about as successful as they are now because they're just great personalities and they're very creative and they put their heart and their soul into it at all times. And I told him, I'm like, look, in a lot of ways, like I'm going to try and duplicate what you guys are doing because I think there's enough room in San Diego sports for us to put out a podcast with a nice audience in the middle of the day that follows up their radio show in the morning. Or, if someday their radio show turns into a podcast they release in the morning. So I love those guys. I love what they're doing. I don't think they need radio. I think radio needs them. Oh. And I'm thrilled to find out that the people that were down there supporting them are also in a lot of ways supporting us. Because that's we know those guys, we like those guys, and a lot of those people that are Ben and Woods fans are people that we expect to be fans over here, or we want to be fans over here. So that's good to hear that it's all positive stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciated the invite from them. And you're right. Listen, we're all competitors, and it's not knocking a particular show to say, all you really have to do is look up the stock prices for some of these companies. Full stop. That will tell you all you need to know about where the industry is as a whole. But for those guys, like do it as long as you can. They've built an incredible fan base, and I do not want this to be interpreted as us taking any credit because they deserve all the credit for what they become. I mean, it's hard to believe it's 7 years of the Ben and Wood show.
I know you said that. I was shocked.
I was like, whoa, 7 years. Holy shit. But, I again, they deserve all the credit. Those two and Paul. Let's not forget about Paul because Paul,
I would never.
I have such an appreciation for that role, having worked with one of the best in the business ever with Jordan. I have such an appreciation for how hard that job is and how somebody's really, you have to be a very specific type of person to be successful at that job because it means it's called the Ben and Wood show. So you're not going to be the headline, but what he does and how he makes that show better, he's about as good as anybody who's done that role, in my opinion. And he's more than just, he does a lot of things. He really does. He does a lot of things. So I want to shout him out too. But, you and I kind of were, we kind of were there at the beginning of that, the whole idea of getting Stephen Woods and correct me if I'm wrong here, if I'm rewriting history, but the whole idea of getting Stephen Woods to Sports Talk Radio was your idea.
My idea.
It was your idea in the first place. So again, it's not trying to take any of their sunshine. Not at all. I mean, but you had the idea, the concept of, hey, this guy's a successful, smart morning host who, would work well with somebody who was, a smart, sportsy kind of person. And that's kind of what the show became. It wasn't exactly how we thought it was going to happen.
No.
But, it's really a credit to the two of those guys that you I think people know this. We did fake shows. We went in on Saturday and did some fake shows with Stephen Woods just to try to sell it to our management because they didn't know much about Stephen. So I will always remember that. And again, it's not about us. I'm just saying I just think talking about 7 years and thinking about this idea where it started and what it's grown to. It's kind of trippy, isn't it?
Yeah. So the way that happened was I was listening to Cantori and Woods pretty regularly, and then they got laid off or fired or blown off the air. 94.9, I think they were at the time, and I reached out to Woods. I was like, "Hey, big fan. Like, would love to grab a drink sometime." We went and we got lunch, and out of lunch, I was like, "There's no reason this guy can't do sports." And then you and I started talking, and you were like, "He's got all the entertainment morning radio chops,
Yep.
and he's got the sports to go with it. Like, we could build a show around this." And we kind of pitched it to the bosses as a show with me, you, Jordan Caruth, and Darren and Stephen Woods, and they were like, "Well, we don't know what it sounds like. We don't whatever." So yeah, we went on a weekend. We taped a couple segments, probably 40 minutes worth or whatever. Sent it to the bosses, and what they took from that several days later was they hired Chris Cantori, which I think was one of the funniest responses to that situation ever. Also, the last time I talked to Jordan Caruth, he insinuated that he still has those recordings somewhere. If he does, I kind of want to like maybe put them out as like secret bonus episodes at Section 1904. Be like, hey, look what we were talking about 8 years ago, before Ben and Woods ever happened. But yeah, I was glad that we at least got them understanding that Woods wasn't just a morning show host on a music station. He could be a sports guy. And then when Dan Cilio disappeared in the middle of the night and they needed people to go on the air in the morning, Woodsy was available, Ben was available. They worked well together. And like to your point about Paul, I was there. I think when Paul got there, he was new and everyone was trying to find like the right spot for him. Was it with Cantori? Was it with Kevin Acey? Was it whatever? And Paul was just a hustler. He just wanted to work, point him in the right direction, he would do it. And I think Paul found the right fit for him. Like Ben is the right fit for him and Woods is the right fit for him. And the three of them fit together perfectly because Woods is a little too crazy. Ben brings him down. Ben's a little too straight-laced. Woods makes him crazy. And like Woods and Paul and Ben creatively all work very well together. So one of those things that wasn't exactly planned out. It was a couple of ideas floating out in the ether. They got combined. They made a show. Now they've been going 7 years. I wouldn't be surprised if they go another 7 after this.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, they're on top of it right now. Like they're at the top of the totem. So
look at them.
It's a huge credit to them. I mean, you can just see the way that people respond to them. Doing these kind of shows. I could tell you from experience, was never my favorite thing. To go there to feel like you have to entertain the people that are in front of you when there's exponentially more people that are listening on the radio.
Yeah.
So, I never loved doing the live remotes, but you can see just the interaction. You can see, how much people are not just like, oh, what's going on there? There's a radio show. Okay, cool. Let's go have a drink at whatever the name of the place was. And, it's like, no, like we want to go see Ben and Woods, and it was really, it was kind of a really cool thing. So I appreciated being invited. And congratulations to those guys as well. Saw Hannah Woods yesterday, Hannah Nancaro, I guess.
Yeah, Hannah Nancaro.
Woods and I have had a recent conversation about neither one of our wives has taken our last names.
Oh, really?
No, we have that in common.
Oh, look at you.
We weren't complaining, by the way, just in case this gets to those years. It wasn't a complaint. It was just I know what it was. It was the sporting director at SDFC, Tyler Heaps, who married a really famous soccer player, Lindsey Horan. And Lindsey changed her name on her jersey and surprised Tyler by changing her last name and having it appear on the back of her U.S. women's national team jersey. And I kind of joked. I was like, yeah, like, wow, Tyler's, he got Lindsey Horan to change her last name, and I can't get my wife. Woods like, yeah, me too. So anyhow, no big deal. I don't have any ego about that at all.
Maybe you guys need more unique last names like Gennaro. Maybe get away from the Smith and the Woods.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe we should just change our names.
There you go.
Maybe he should be Stephen Nancaro and I should be Darren Cornett or something. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I don't even know why that came up, other than it was just part of opening day. So I've continued my streak of being on the radio for opening day now, going back to 2004.
Oh, well, there we go. We got to do it every year. You got to appear on someone's radio broadcast just to keep the streak alive. Hey, speaking of your plans, I've asked you this question a couple different ways, and you've answered it a couple different ways. So I've been waiting specifically for today to ask it. San Diego FC welcomes in LAFC tomorrow.
Correct.
And to this point, for every San Diego FC game, you have been on the radio broadcast to the point where, publicly or not, you've actually been like, kind of miss being part of the fan experience a little bit. Are you going to get to be a fan tomorrow, or are you part of the broadcast again?
I initially thought, because, there's going to be a rotation of people that are actually calling the game.
Right.
So, Adrian Garcia Marquez is, for the most part, the established play-by-play voice of SDFC.
Yeah.
If Adrian has a conflict, then I think what the plan is that I probably will sit in that chair.
Yeah.
Now, there are analysts and color commentators. I consider myself a color commentator, not an analyst. So I did the first 4 as a color commentator, and then most recently play-by-play. But now Warren Barton, who is great, he's been on Fox, he works for Apple, lives here locally, former player coach, true gentleman. He's going to do the analysis Saturday night against LAFC. And I thought, John, that was like, okay, I'm free.
Right.
I'm going to go to the game and
get to the tailgate, baby.
But I'm actually doing pre, half, and post. So we're going to try to take something off Adrian's plate because Adrian's working so hard doing so many games. So I'm like, you don't worry about this. I'll manage the pregame show. I'll do the halftime show. We'll do a little bit of the postgame show as well. They're going to be involved with it, but I will mostly be manning that operation on Saturday night.
So during the game, are you in the booth just watching the game?
Yeah, I'm going to go wander around a little bit. I think it's going to be there's going to be a lot of energy. LAFC's bringing like 1,200 fans. So like
this number goes up every time we talk. It went from like 800 to 900 to 1,000. Now it's 1,200.
1,200, yeah. Well, that's what I've heard is that they've purchased about 1,200. Now again, this is kind of like what SDFC did when it went and played at Galaxy. So that was 825 and then another couple of hundred, I do believe. But they are expecting about 1,200 fans in the building for LAFC. And I think some of our supporters, some of the SDFC supporters are considering this a challenge. Like they are a great away section, LAFC. I've been to games, Galaxy games. I've seen them in San Jose. I've seen them in Columbus. So, when they go Seattle, I've seen them. They can go in and they can make a lot of noise and they could really sort of try to hijack the atmosphere. And I think our fans are certainly well aware of what it is that LAFC fans are expecting to do. And they're going to try to, it's going to be up to them to try to drown out the LAFC fans. Not a lot of places have had success with this, but I think our supporters are up for it. So, yeah, I will be doing pregame starting at 7 o'clock I think we're on 760. I don't know if they're carrying the NCAA tournament. Is that thing still happening?
Yes, there was Sweet 16 games last night.
Ah, okay. Once my alma mater got bounced out, I've completely turned away from it.
Honestly, kind of the same, but college basketball's never really been my bag anyway.
Mm-hmm. But I think, I'm pretty sure we're on 760, so you can listen via the app. And also remember, this is a nice little tip for anybody that's got Apple TV Plus. There is an option for you to listen to the local radio broadcast on Apple TV Plus. Only for the home team. Some have asked, how come we can't get it when you're doing an away game?
Drives me crazy.
Like at Austin. It's just the way Apple TV does it. So, they will plug right in. And if you don't want to listen, whoever's doing the broadcast for Apple TV Plus, you want to listen to Adrian and Warren Barton, you can do that. They will have that option if you scroll around a little bit and find the prompt for it, if you subscribe to the MLS package.
My favorite thing about Adrian, outside of the fact that he's just a tremendous play-by-play broadcaster and has a really good way of describing things, but also carrying narratives through and giving you descriptions that make you understand the role of each player and the level of each player, is that he's really funny, but he's really dry. So like he'll just squeeze jokes in all the time, and it takes you a second to realize that was a joke, and then you're like, wait, no, that was a joke. That was a really funny joke. His dry humor really makes the broadcast for me. So I look forward to the home games, even when I'm not at them. I look forward to clicking that little button on Apple TV to radio broadcast instead of TV.
Yeah, and since we chatted last, John, I think it was Wednesday, right? Because we had the midweek show on Wednesday night, and I had to sit on this because it was embargoed for the show. But I did tell you off the air that they are expecting Chucky Lozano to return Saturday night.
Yay.
So that's something that the head man, Mike Ivaras, told us. He said that Chucky will hopefully be available, barring some sort of setback. He'll be available. He'll be in the squad. He will start the game on the bench. And Mikey's own words, I listened to it again this morning. He said, we're thinking 15, 20 minutes. Should everything go according to plan, that Irving Lozano will be available in the match. That'll be a moment. Unfortunately, his first game at Snapdragon Stadium being subbed off in the 31st minute. So, if you can get 15, 20 out of him for a team right now that's played pretty well defensively, played really, really well in the midfield, still not as dangerous as they're hoping when it comes to, scoring, that's why you got him. So, you can almost picture a kind of a tight game late. Here comes Chucky Lozano. The script writers hopefully are working overtime here to try to drum up a little bit of drama Saturday night for Chucky Lozano to come off the bench and do something memorable against LAFC.
Also, not to make this about me, but as a longtime suffering Tottenham Hotspur fan, I over the years went from absolutely loving Hugo Lloris to he's good, but he's annoying. Like, his personality is just dickish. And then by the end, just being like, I hate this guy, get him off my team. It's going to be kind of fun to root against Hugo than now the LAFC goalie. Just because he's one of those people, like, when his defender makes a mistake, he just berates him in a way that feels mean. And like, you got tired of it watching it all the time. I got tired of it watching it all the time. So yeah, if Chucky comes on and can score a goal, his first MLS goal, that'd be his first MLS goal?
Yeah, he hasn't scored yet. He does have an assist. Did pick up an assist against Galaxy,
right,
on the first goal ever to Anders Dreyer. But it would be great to have him come off the bench and do something dramatic Saturday night. Right, it's going to be raucous. So yeah, I think it's exactly the kind of shot in the arm that the club needs. The club hasn't. Mikey said it well. He's like, we just haven't looked dangerous enough or ruthless enough in front of goal. Yeah. And I think he's that kind of guy. So, and probably two clubs by the end of the summer, John, that are going to, you talked a little bit about Hugo Lloris. Olivier Giroud is a French striker with LAFC. Both clubs are rumored to linked with really, really big name players in Europe. SDFC has been linked forever with Kevin De Bruyne. And LAFC, there's some reports in Spain that Antoine Griezmann, the French forward who plays for Atletico Madrid, already has a deal in place with LAFC. So what it looks like on Saturday night, obviously, is not going to be what it looks like the next time these two teams face off against one another, including, just the rumors. And I don't know anything about De Bruyne. I really don't. I can put my hand on my heart and tell you I have not heard that from anybody. But I think, again, going back to some of the stuff we mentioned with Jackson Merrill, where there's a little bit of smoke, sometimes there's a little bit of fire. I don't know. They'd have to do some things with their roster designation. MLS is goofy. You have to change your roster construction if you're going to bring in somebody on a designated player contract. But yeah, I mean, these are two clubs I think that are off to pretty good starts, third and fourth, Western Conference standings. So, and also looking to add. I think SDFC has to add here over the next couple of weeks. The transfer window's open until April 23rd, so you can still bring some players in. You're not going to bring in Kevin De Bruyne if he's going to come here, or if any designated player is going to come to San Diego. It's not going to be till July.
Yeah.
You cannot change. You cannot bring another designated player to San Diego Football Club until July. Okay? And there's a whole complicated reason. I could explain it.
Is that an expansion team thing? Is that why?
No. So I'll explain it real quick. You have, and this is new to MLS, and it's a head scratcher, if I can be honest. So you have to designate what style of roster you are going to go with. And you can make a change one time, and it is during the summer transfer window.
What do you mean by style of roster?
Okay. So what SDFC, their roster construction is, they have, there's different, it's kind of like basketball. Basketball's got a lot of goofy words for contracts, right? Supermax, max, mid-level exemptions, all that sort of stuff. The long and short of it is SDFC has decided to start its season with a roster that will limit them to 2 designated players and up to 4 under 22 players.
Oh.
So you have a choice. You can go 2 designated players, 4 under 22s, or you can do 3 designated players, right, where there is no salary
And 3
cap
under
restrictions
22.
for them, right? You can pay them whatever you want to pay them. Or you can have a roster construct of 3 designated players and 3 under 22s.
So you're kind of making the decision of, do I want to push in on young or do I want to push in on veteran?
Correct. So a great example would be what we just saw in Austin. Austin has spent about $30 million on 3 designated players in the last 8-9 months since August of last year. Brandon Vasquez is probably the most relevant person.
Yeah.
He's a Chula Vista kid, got $10 million bucks. They also spent $12 million on an Albanian forward who was on international duty when SDFC played him. But they've decided what they're going to do. They're like, hey, we're pushing in. We're going to go with 3 DPs, and then they can only have 3 under 22s. And the league incentivizes you to pick the 4 under 22 roster designation because they give you a little bit of extra money to spend. So they haven't filled these spots out. That's the interesting thing. They haven't filled these spots out. But to start the season, what SDFC decided is we're going to have 2 designated player spots and 4 under 22s. They filled the 2 DP spots, one of them Lozano, one of them Dreyer, and I think they have 2 under 22s right now. So, they still have some room that they can add some players in here. Tomas Angel is one of the under 22s. Who am I missing? I think somebody else gets that designation as well.
Is Mighton one of the under 22s?
I don't think so. I think he's just on a deal. I mean, it might be Willie. But they do have some room. They have some flexibility between now and the end of this transfer window, which is in April, 3rd week of April. But, they also can, if they decide that they want to go and get Kevin De Bruyne, they can change. You can change your roster designation one time, and it has to be after July 1st. So that would be the earliest that we could possibly hear anything about Kevin De Bruyne or any other designated player, if that's something that SDFC even wants to do, which I'm not sure.
Okay, so I knew I saw this somewhere, and you started.
Did that all make sense, or was
did.
that like super boring?
No, it did. Although I'm going to need your help with the pronunciation in a second. So I knew I had seen this somewhere. So on what I call Spotrack, I don't know if that's the way to pronounce it or not. They have this lined out. So Chuki's one of the designated players. The other one is Anders Dreyer. The under 22, they have 2 guys right now, one of which is Tomas Angel. The other is, help me with this, Heine Gil.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he's not played at all.
No.
He came in the expansion draft. I see him in training all the time. I'm always like, what's the deal with this guy?
Do you know the pronunciation?
I do.
Gickling Bruseth?
It's exactly like it. Yeah. Give it a shot. Bruseth, right?
Yeah, Bruseth. Heine Gickling Bruseth is under 22. Those are the 2. And then there's 2 that say TAM. I don't know what that means.
TAM, that's just the allocation money. TAM, it's like TAM, GAM.
Got it.
General allocation money, and then that's a different roster designation. So yeah, they have room. They have money to spend. They have they have the second most money to spend in the league behind NYCFC. So I haven't heard any rumors, but I can't imagine that they're probably not out there actively trying to find somebody or some bodies to come in here over the next couple of weeks, and then we'll see what happens in July. But
and they need the depth.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
And like I said, it is shocking to me that LAFC apparently, if these reports, and these reports are often erroneous, but it is shocking that they're going to potentially end up with Antoine Griezmann. He's a really, really good player. So, but that's what they do. They go out there and they spend a bunch of money on players, and they've been saving a designated player spot, and it sounds like it'll be him. So, be good to get him while you can get him. Coming up on Saturday night.
Now that I know just enough about this to be dangerous, I'm going to guess that they're going to use one of the under 22 spots on a backup keeper because they don't have one.
Cisniega's backup keeper.
He's not on this. He's not on this list. Oh wait, no, these are supplementals. Okay, they have supplementals. I don't know what that means. Oh, each team shall have a supplemental roster of 8 or more additions. Is this like a practice squad thing?
This is where it gets really goofy, where it's like, whoa, my head's going to explode, because you have certain amount of spots that you can use, like your senior squad, and then like spots 22 or like 21 through 25 receive a designation, then spots 25 through 30. I'm glad that it's Tyler Heaps dealing with this shit.
There's a designation here for Luca Bombino that says homegrown. No,
Homegrown,
okay.
yeah.
There's
LAFC, former LAFC player.
there's another one that just says Generation Adidas. Man, this is getting complicated. I like it.
Yep. As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, 2 former LAFC players, in
Bombino and
Bambino and Angel.
oh, that's right. I did see Angel play for LAFC.
Yep. So 2 former players who kind of slip between the cracks. I'm sure those guys, being competitors that they are, will probably want to go out there and perform on Saturday night against the club, who gave them an opportunity but decided that they were going to move on from them, hopefully to San Diego Football Club's great benefit. But yes, to answer the question that you asked a million years ago, I will be doing a little bit of both. I'm going to go walk around during the first half just so I can see what it's like and feel it and feel the energy, because I can feel it in the booth. But I do want to walk around. My wife's going to go. She's bringing a friend. So I will have some fun with
It's not a great stadium to try and keep an eye on the game when you walk around. There's a lot of places that you just can't see the game if you're on the concourse, and I really hate that.
I mean, I think that's an interesting point about the stadium too, because I do get the sense, having played in some of the soccer specific stadiums already, whether it was Salt Lake or Austin, I think guys that are new to the league are looking a little bit at Snapdragon maybe we can make a couple of improvements to this place over the years,
It
right?
doesn't
To
look
keep
like a
the
soccer
noise
stadium.
in the
Yeah.
building, because it stays in the building so well. There's a reason why Austin has sold out 71. Their first 71 matches have all been sellouts. It's a smaller stadium, obviously. It's 21,000 people. It's not 35. Although I did have to laugh at the Union Tribune this week. Good God. Tom Krasovich. He wrote a story about how Snapdragon just, maybe they built it too big. I'm like, holy fucking shit, man. You guys at the Union Tribune did everything you could to sell us on this. And now all of a sudden, 5 years down the road or 3 years down the road, whatever it is, you're starting to suggest that maybe the place is a little too big for San Diego State football and soccer. I mean,
Darren, I have a solution. We should give Landon Donovan a sledgehammer and just let him work out his emotions on the top deck of Snapdragon Stadium. We'll just get rid of the whole top deck and let Landon do it, because I'm sure he's very angry about it.
Did you read that? I don't know if you're a Union Tribune consumer, but I saw that the other day. I was like, what is this piece? When did these guys all of a sudden decide? Let's see. So far, Snapdragon Stadium appears larger than is ideal. What? I mean, you guys stumped for this so hard, and now you're having this revelation somewhere down the road?
Well, because they did this whole stupid thing where they're like, oh, it's going to be big enough so that if an NFL team wants to come back, we'll have a place for it. And I'm like, and people were voting for that, like an NFL team's ever.
Bullshit.
It was total bullshit. And I mean, I lived down by San Diego State when that vote happened, and there was signs on every lawn, SDSU says no on this proposition and yes on this one. And I was like, people are just voting because they're alumni or because they trust the university that is in their backyard. And no one was really looking at it and going like, one of these plans really sucks. And that's the plan that we got. And the Union Tribune was a part of us getting that plan. They were so anti-soccer city. So
here's a couple paragraphs. It does appear that despite the advantages of San Diego's temperate climate, San Diego's 2 professional soccer teams and SDSU's football program would be better off if Snapdragon Stadium had been built with thousands of seats fewer than its listed capacity of 32,500. This disclaimer must be attached to that statement. Regardless of team performances, attendance potential for soccer matches and Aztec football games in Mission Valley might improve if a canopy or overhang were added to the stadium like those 2 MLS venues in Greater Los Angeles. The fan experience, which is already good, would benefit. Importantly, the stadium's scheduling options would grow. I'm just like, what? I mean,
I was thinking of this earlier today because I was like, if you're an LAFC fan and you're coming down for this game, what are the chances that they're going to walk in and somewhere 10 minutes into the first half, they're going to go, man, this stadium sucks compared to ours? Like 100%, right? Like you've been to BMO or whatever it's called. Like that is a soccer stadium and it feels like a soccer stadium. And this is like, I was sitting at the home opener. And a buddy of mine looked around and he said, this feels like when I go to Cholos games and the stadium is half finished. And it's, he's not wrong. It's there were mistakes made there, but the Union Tribune trying to cover their tracks on who's responsible for it is like the guy in the hot dog costume going, we're all looking for the guy who did this.
Right. Yeah. Krasovich sums it up by saying, for all parties involved, the Snap is a good venue, just not an ideal one. Listen, I mean, again, great hindsight there. But, it is what it is. You got to make the most out of it, And as I said, I think the supporters will be up for it. I think that they've done a great job. They're doing the best they can. I mean, I know how hard people are working to make that environment as good as it can possibly be. But, I also do know now as more people get exposure to Major League Soccer and you start seeing what it is and how it looks and how it sounds in other places, I think at some point here, like that stuff is going to have to be addressed at Snapdragon Stadium. So I feel like it's a league thing. I was told way back when that the league was going to insist on an MLS team putting canopies up. I don't know why that changed, but maybe we'll figure it out somewhere down the road. Anyway, it's the third game ever. I don't think we need to just bellyache about it. It's been it's been great. It's been fun. The fans have been phenomenal. 30,000 plus, both games. So, largest attendance in history, but we are going to get into the summer and there's going to be a lot more matches. So,
and there's going to be some daytime matches that are going to be hard. These nighttime matches are good, but we don't need to bash San Diego FC for it, or even necessarily SDSU, although they certainly did their part. But I will keep my foot on the neck of the Union Tribune for as long as humanly possible. I have a hard out here in a few minutes. I'm going to say two things, and then Darren, I will let you carry us out in whichever way you choose. One of which is right before we started recording, I saw a news story break that the Memphis Grizzlies have fired their head coach, which is really weird because they've been one of the 5 best teams in the NBA all year. They've been one of the best teams in the NBA when healthy for the last 5 or 6 years. A lot of that has been attributed to head coach Taylor Jenkins, who was incredibly highly regarded throughout the league. And I have no idea why they would fire him, but also they're going to be in the playoffs. And I don't mean play-in. They're going to be in the playoffs. They might have a top 4 seed in the Western Conference going into these playoffs that start in a week or two. And they fired their head coach without any sort of news story or without any sort of sense. And I don't understand it. And the reason I'm bringing it up is to tell people that one of the staples of Section 1904 is to not just like throw out news and be like, well, this is crazy. Like, I'm going to do some in-depth research into this. I'm going to figure out why the hell this happened because it's a story that literally doesn't make sense. And I want it to make sense in my head. And then I will probably on Monday's show take a few minutes and see if I can make it make sense to everyone else because it's weird. You don't see teams fire their head coach when they're in a good playoff position 2 weeks before the playoffs. Like this is your Dave Roberts thing from the other day, which is like Dave Roberts was going to get fired if they lost to the Padres and instead he wins a World Series and he gets a contract extension. Like Taylor Jenkins usually in normal times would have been offered the ability to win the NBA championship and get a contract extension. And instead he gets fired a couple weeks before the start of the season and the start of the playoffs. And just really weird. So that's a story.
And just looking at it real quick, like on a surface for somebody who's not paying a ton of attention to the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah.
They're 44-29. They're tied with the Lakers. They have identical records for the 4th and 5th spot. I guess the Lakers have the advantage of tiebreakers. They've gone 5-5 in their last 10. So it's not like you can point to something and be like, well, listen, this team's in a free fall. There's really nothing that, you would say looks obvious.
And John Moran has played in 43 games this year. He's been in like half of their games.
Something about a clock issue the other night. They made a mistake with the clock. I don't know. It doesn't seem like the kind of thing that would be that punitive that somebody would lose their job over when you're the 5 seed in the Western Conference. By the way, speaking of the NBA, did you see the Clippers oddly wishing you're not on Twitter anymore?
No.
Or X or whatever the fuck.
Not yet.
So, did you see the Clippers wishing the Padres good luck?
No.
Yeah. Now, they also did it to the Angels and the Dodgers, but I just thought it was an odd thing to say good luck to the, it was in 3 separate posts, but, they screen grabbed or retweeted or whatever, the Padres opening day lineup, and they were like, hey, good luck this season.
That's so, that's it's the opposite of what we've been criticizing the Padres for not doing. That's thirsty. That's like if the Padres were out here wishing good luck to the Lakers, right? And the Clippers and the Golden State Warriors or whatever. That's super thirsty. The last thing I just wanted to say was thank you to everyone who has subscribed already at section1904.com. Thank you to everyone who is going to subscribe in the future. We love you guys. This has been really invigorating for Darren and I. And every time we get an email saying this person signed up for $5 a month, this person signed up for $10 a month, this person paid for a whole year in advance or whatever, it inspires us and it makes us want to do more content, better content. So whatever we were able to do this week, even next week, I'm going to be on vacation for a lot of the week. We're trying to figure that out. We are going to continue working hard because you guys are supporting us. So thank you so much for doing so.
Yeah, it was great. It really was. And I was asked a bunch of questions yesterday about different tiers and stuff. I was like, yeah. It's like there are a lot of things that we're still trying to figure out.
We're figuring it out. There's gonna be more features coming out next week. I still have to launch our social media platforms. There's gonna be some sort of community platform, whether that's Discord or WhatsApp. I haven't even sent out like the private RSS feeds because I set up the whole thing where like the RSS feed sends out when we actually get your money, but we haven't gotten money from anyone because everyone has signed up on the free trial. So I might just manually send those all out. Although right now we're just doing all the episodes with no paywall, so it doesn't exactly matter. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff coming in the next week, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. We're just going to keep adding on to this. And the more people support us, the more we can do with it, which is it's going to be fun.
And the one thing everybody needs to know too, because you hear us talking about subscriptions and stuff and being community owned and fan owned. This is all free for the next month.
Yep.
So give it a listen. We cannot promise that we're going to always say things that people agree with, but we are ultimately going to be responsible to the people who support the podcast. So that's the trick of doing media sometimes is you have to say things that might not be very popular. But, I think that's kind of what we've identified ourselves in doing, being advocates for San Diego and certainly, putting our best foot forward here with this venture. So, but it's all going to be free. So, test it out, get into a rhythm. It'll mostly be available for you, sometime late morning, each and every day, or several times per week, I think is how we're getting off the ground here with it. And, it's just it's super exciting to see what it becomes and how it grows. So, Appreciated everybody saying that in person. Appreciated everybody who I've seen interacting with it. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you at Snapdragon Stadium on Saturday night if you're making your way down there. And we'll do it again next week.
See you on Monday, Darren.
Started back rocking the brown. Ever since we've been knocking them down. Baby said she wanna go to the game. Taught her how to say Padre.